The Chilkat 2 by the North Face is a winter boot that excels in just about every way a good active winter boot can excel. But it does have one big failure. Stick around for my review to find out what that failure is and just how important that might be to you. Hello everyone, Late Boy Scout here with my review of the Chilkat 2 boot by the North Face. As I said in the intro, these boots excel in just about every way a winter boot can. But they do have one big drawback, and I'll just go ahead and give that to you right now. It's sizing. Now, I'm not going to hold that against these boots too much because that's kind of a problem with a lot of winter boots. You buy a size 12, they end up fitting like a size 11. You buy a size 13, they finally fit like a size 12. One of the ways that the North Face Chilkat 2 boot especially can be a problem in that area is that, well, basically the insulation that it has is just so kind of aggressive. It's got this Primaloft insulation, 200 grams of it according to the specs that the North Face gives. Now, this insulation is actually a pretty popular insulation, and it was developed in the 1980s, used for military applications, and is now popularized and used in a lot of clothing, winter clothes, jackets, gloves, snow boots, like the ones you see before you. So it's a pretty common insulation, and it's actually got an interesting story behind it. It was developed to be a synthetic version of down, and apparently it does just as well as down in most applications. And one of the ways that it's actually slightly better is that when it gets wet, it continues to maintain its loft. In other words, it stays warm even when it's wet. So that's a pretty huge factor. And if you can get that in a boot, as opposed to, I don't know that you ever put down in boots, but if you can get Primaloft, let's just pronounce it that way, in your boot, you're going to be in pretty good shape. But that's talking about the insulation, but we'll go back to the fit in regards to the insulation because those things are related. And I'll tell you why. If you look down inside this boot, and I'll try to give you a little extra illumination here. Look down inside that boot. Do you see how that crevice tapers? Okay, crevice is probably not the right word, but the hole for your foot, whatever you want to call it. Okay, do you see how that kind of has a lot of padding on either side of it? A lot. I mean, that's a tight little hole for you to get your foot through. And it feels that way as you get your foot down in there. It really does. And now, that's probably going to be comfortable if you wear a size, if I were to wear a size 13 instead of this size 12, I would probably enjoy that. That actually gives my ankle a lot of support and, gives it some good insulation. Now, I want you to understand, though, that what you're seeing there, that's the Primaloft insulation, Primaloft whatever, insulation, and it's kind of pushing out. It's a very lofty substance, and that stuff goes throughout the boot. So as your foot follows down throughout there, you've got this insulation pressing on your foot from all directions. Okay, it's not just kind of like a blanket where it, kind of gives way when your foot comes through. No, this stuff is, on the inside of a very rigid leather material. Okay, so that's not going anywhere. It's going to press on your foot the whole time. And anytime it's not pressing on your foot, or if it gets too compressed, well, then you lose insulation anyway. So what I'm trying to point out is the fact that your foot inside of there, if it's tight, it's not only going to lose the insulative property, but it's also just going to kind of press on your foot the whole time, and circulation's not going to be very good, comfort's not going to be very good. So you will have some good comfort as long as these boots are sized properly. If they're not, you may have some discomfort. I have used these boots on numerous snowshoeing occasions and also a recent winter camp out with some scouts. And we can talk a little bit about the material that you see on the inside there as well. That is a Drylex material. So you've got that on the it's Drylex fleece on the collar right here, and then down throughout as well, I believe. And that Drylex is an interesting material as I was reading about that, trying to understand it. It's got some interesting properties that help to wick away sweat. So yes, it's wintertime, your feet are cold, but as you're doing some snowshoeing or some other kind of work, yeah, you're going to have some sweat. That's just natural. But this material is actually pretty interesting in that it has some very cool hydrophilic properties, which pull that sweat away from your body, from your leg, and into the foam of the boot. Okay, so as long as you're not completely saturating that foam inside of there, your feet are going to stay dry and the boot is going to get progressively more wet. Now that's going to be fine until the point where you can take them off, and then they'll sort of air out and get dry, and you're back in business. So it's a good thing that it does that it pulls that sweat away and into the boot's foam. It works to keep your foot dry and thereby warmer. You can talk about the leather that's up here in the actual top of the boot. What we have there is some BLC compliant leather, and BLC, if you're not sure, you've never heard of them, they're a company based in the UK that is kind of like the go-to company for testing leather. And if your leather is BLC compliant, basically it's about as good as it can get. And that's what you've got on the Chilkat 2 by the North Face. It is completely waterproof, all that leather is, and as well as this material down here, which is a thermoplastic rubber, if I'm not mistaken. The shell here is thermoplastic rubber. The footbed is also. And then we've actually got, if I'm not mistaken, we have a compression molded EVA midsole in here throughout this area right here. Now, if you're familiar with EVA and how it behaves, it wears out. It's a foam, and it's just like this material that I have here on the. These are my flumes made by Timberland, and this is also an EVA midsole. This stuff is going to compress over time. It's going to lose its loft and its cushion, and it's not going to be as comfortable as it was as it gets older and older and more used. So it's the same material here in these boots, but it's really difficult to find anything better than that these days. Almost everybody puts EVA into their midsoles, and it actually has, I think probably a winter boot is the best place for an EVA midsole to be, because it's actually a fairly soft material, which means that it's going to have a higher R value than, say, the thermoplastic rubber beneath it, or just about any other material that might be there for a midsole. What I'm trying to say is it will have better insulative properties than something harder would, because it is soft, because it does trap more air, have more dead air space in there. That's what you need for insulation. So I think that EVA as a midsole is a good choice for a winter boot. I don't think I talked about the hardware, which is all a rust-proof or rust-resistant type of hardware. And it does have a nice D-ring here for use with gaiters like these ones by Outdoor Research. So if you pair a gaiter with a boot like that, you're going to do a great job of keeping the snow out. This hook right here is what hooks onto that D-ring and incorporates that gaiter with the boot to create a nice waterproof barrier all the way up. The laces are adequate. Never had any kind of problem with them. They're adequately strong. They're well done. Nothing wrong, no problem with them whatsoever. This top loop right here does a great job of locking that lace in. I'll try to demonstrate that for you a little bit. So it's kind of hard to pull out. It is a pretty tight little space in there. So as you get your lace in there, it locks in pretty well. So I really appreciate that about the North Face and what they've done with that little hook there. The fact that these are all they tighten up very quickly. They are not all D-rings. They're sort of like a triangular sort of ring, but I haven't had a problem with that. And then once they reach this top loop, they cinch into there pretty well, and they're not going to fall back out. So that's a very good feature. The tongue. Let's talk about the tongue a little bit, and particularly where the gusset, how high up the gusset comes. This is a good high gusset, okay? I've got other winter boots that do not come this high, that actually are, come up higher in the actual height, but the gusset doesn't come this high. So it's nice, really nice to see this on my boot, and to see that comes up pretty high. That's going to help to keep the snow out if you're not using something like a gaiter. Okay, it's going to help to keep the moisture in the snow out, and just really improve the quality of your boot all around. It does come in a couple different colors. This is the sort of two-tone brown, as you can tell. And I like the look of this one. There's also a two-tone black and gray sort of a color. And that one's not bad looking either. It's really just personal preference, whatever's available to you. On the back, we've got a nice finger loop to help you slip these boots on quickly if that's the order of the day. You know, if you want to, let's say you're in your house, your cabin, and you need to run out real quick. So you have these, let's say these boots are laced up kind of loosely, and you just kind of slip them on from the back. And they go on very easily and stay on pretty nicely. So that's one way to use that, and certainly for use just generally using that loop. And it's very well done, by the way. It's extremely fat and thick and leather. Okay, we're not looking at just some sort of nylon there that might tear off or wear out. This is going to do very, very well over time, I'm pretty sure. We can look at the soles here, which are also pretty nice and aggressive. Okay, we're looking at these sort of stripes coming down here are very sharp and very aggressive. And as I mentioned before, in the winter camp out with those scouts, those soles just did great. You know, we were surrounded by slippery ice and snow the whole time. It was very, very cold, and I had no slipping issues with these on. They're obviously not going to be like, I don't know, crampons or something like that have actual metal teeth in them. They're not going to be that good, but as far as any kind of job that rubber can do, these soles do really, really well. And I would have no complaints with them whatsoever. I want to point out this ledge that we have on the back of the heel right there, which is excellent for your snowshoes. All right, you usually have, depending on the brand of snowshoe and the type, you'll probably have something that comes around the back heel, okay, to really cinch that down and press your shoe forward into the other straps. All right, that's exactly how my snowshoes are built, and probably how yours are too. And when you have a little ledge like this, you probably don't need to have that, but it really gives you some added security with that strap, keeping it from slipping down in just about any situation. And that's one reason why I like this boot as a boot for snowshoeing. If you're a new snowshoer, you're probably going to fall down once or twice. And it's really nice to be able to have this hold on to your foot very well and have that snowshoe hold on to your shoe really well, your boot really well. So you don't have to worry about it coming apart and trying to fix that while you're trying to get moving as well. So a lot of features built into this that make it a good snowshoeing boot. Clearly it's well branded. We've got the North Face printed all over it right there at the top, right there on the side, there on the back as well. They just don't let you forget that you are wearing a pair of North Face boots. Now, one last word about insulation. I talked about the thermoplastic shell and sole. Now, those are all fine and good for keeping the water out, but they do transfer cold to your foot and to your toe, especially if the sizing is not right. So that all of that insulation within there just gets compressed, and then this hard material takes the cold and directs it straight through that insulation material, straight through to your toes. And again, one more reason why you've got to get the sizing right, because if you can't wear thick socks under these, then that insulation is, that cold is just coming straight through no matter what, and there's not a lot you can do. So what it really comes down to with any boot, the Chilkat 2 by the North Face, or any other boot, is give yourself some space in there. Okay, make sure that the sizing is good, that if you are a size 12, get the size 13. All right, if you're a size 10, get the size 11, whatever the case might be. Insulation relies on space, relies on some dead air. If you don't have that, it's just going to conduct straight to your toes, and you're going to be very uncomfortable. And good luck getting some toe heaters down there that are going to make your toes feel good again. All right, guys, well, that's all I had to say today about the Chilkat 2 by the North Face. Again, a very good, very solid winter boot. Just get the sizing right. I'm the Late Boy Scout. We'll see you later.